at the end of the last 4 fiscal years, how much money we returned, because that's all on the spreadsheets. And they finally sat down and counted it all up, and I think I've got it here. Let me look. From '06 through '09, our office returned in unspent money at the end of the fiscal year $46,256 is what we returned. And I know that there are other offices that do the same thing. I don't like to spend money needlessly. I know other county offices do the same thing. At the same time, it would be, as a government official, you can't just, I don't think, rest on your laurels. You constantly have got to try to find a better, smarter way to do your job. And that's what I know within my office we're doing. We are, and I'll have to say this and tie it in with this, I have great staff. I have the best staff in the state of Virginia. I'll tell anybody that. And I like it. The one thing that we do have is they feel, I think, comfortable with me to share their opinions. And as I said earlier, I know one thing for sure, I don't have all the answers. I better be willing to listen. And I know my chief deputy, Becky Kress, and I were sitting down one day, and I said, we were talking about a particular issue, and I said, well, I think we need to do it this way. And she said, no. And I said, yeah, I think we do. Well, then she proceeded to explain to me her perspective. And I sat there and listened, and I finally looked at her, and I said, Becky, I think we need to do that your way, because she was right. And you have to be open-minded enough to listen to save a dollar. And I think that's what I know for my office personally. I think that we need to do that. But money's tight, and we had better spend it as wisely as we possibly can.
One of the things that I know you are most concerned about is getting out the word, making sure people feel that their questions are answered, that you think it's a disservice if they're not. In the paper, you talk about doing your homework. We've talked about that earlier in this segment. You talk about doing your homework, coming in to challenge the assessment. We talked about the homework. What are they to do? This question, do they still have time to challenge? And even after that challenge, what other avenues do taxpayers have to appeal?
That's a great question, Blake, because I talk social sciences and I talk government. And as a part of that, I firmly believe in due process. And in this particular situation, due process means that the taxpayer should have the opportunity to appeal. And I would encourage anyone who doesn't feel comfortable with their assessment, as I mentioned earlier, go to vamadet.com. See how they arrived at those numbers. Go find additional information. If you came up and you had, if you had to have, for example, your property appraised for refinancing, and you have that information, bring it. If your property is in a flood zone, bring documentation showing that. Those are issues. If you have photographs of the inside of a piece of property that shows maybe that it looks finished from the outside, but it's actually not, bring that. But most importantly, make sure you appeal. How does the appeals process work? After folks receive their assessment, the first step was what was called the Board of Assessors. Those were actually the folks that worked for the company. They were located up here in the back vault, which is under the jurisdiction and control of the clerk of the court. They had to come through my office to get to it. That went on until this past Monday. After those appeals, the assessing company will send out letters notifying everyone who had appealed of what their determination is. Is that the end of the line? Absolutely not. There's a second level of appeal that individual can go to, which is called the Board of Equalization. Now, this is the important thing. If someone wasn't able to see the Board of Assessors, couldn't get in, or they suddenly decided, hey, maybe I will appeal it, they didn't have to see the Board of Assessors to see the Board of Equalization. They can jump into the process in the middle. What is the Board of Equalization? The Board of Equalization is made up of 5 citizens of Smith County. They are to be recommended by the Board of Supervisors. Those recommendations then go to a circuit court judge. When it goes to a circuit court judge, he appoints them. At that point, someone from the Department of Taxation will come down and have a training session with them. Now, these individuals have to meet certain requirements, or a certain number of them have to, of having experience either, let's say, in banking or real estate or so forth. At that point, they will set up an office to take appointments and begin having people come before them to hear their appeal before the Board of Equalization at that point. And that's what people need to do. They need to do that, because what happens is, now the Board of Equalization, unlike the Board of Assessors, the Board of Assessors was a very short time frame. The Board of Equalization will go over much a longer time of frame. It'll go over a longer period of time. But they won't meet every day. But it may stretch out. I remember 6 years ago it stretched out probably August. Legally, it can actually stretch out all the way to December 31st. But I don't think that's going to happen. So after they see the Board of Equalization and the Board of Equalization finishes, they will once again receive notification of if there was any change again. You say, well, okay, that's all there is to it. No. For those individuals that didn't feel as if they received satisfaction from the Board of Assessors and then the Board of Equalization, the third and last step is that they can take it before a circuit court judge. That circuit court judge will hear their last argument, their position on their property, and he will make that determination. At that point, they bring me all of that information and say, here is the land book, Jeff. You have to certify it, you have to sign off on it, and that's it. So my authority in terms of making an adjustment, the code specifically says I can't unless of one particular circumstance. Let's say, for example, somebody has a building in their backyard. Tree blows over, it destroys the building totally, it's gone. Or somebody has a vacant building that they decide to go and get a demolition permit. They bring me the evidence of that. That is what is referred to as a factual error. It's a change of fact. That's the only time that I can change a value on any property. In terms of a subjective nature of whether it's $40,000 or $30,000, I don't have any authority as far as real estate is concerned. Personal property, that is my call. Automobiles, equipment, and so forth, I do have the authority of that. But I would urge anybody, and one of the things I quite often hear folks say is, well, you know, I'm not going to go see those assessors because I'm going to be wasting my time. And Blake, for example, the assessing company was very, very busy, and we can turn to any page, and they've already returned to me the book of all of the changes that they made on any properties. They'll be mailing those out, I hope, this coming week. So the concept of anyone it not changing, you know, Blake, if you would take the book, and if you want to turn to any page you want to randomly and just see how many there are and how many of them were changed and how many didn't change out of those, that might give folks an idea that as to were there any changes or what percentage or how many changed out of however many are on that page. And that might give an idea, and you certainly can share that with the listeners that it is worth the effort. It's your right. Don't, and I would tell anybody this, don't be denied. Do not be denied your rights. Anyone who doesn't have a computer, they can't get access to VAMINet, call my office. We'll print it out. We'll get it to you because, you know, you have the right to that information. If you don't have the information, in my opinion, it's just the same as being denied your access to your appeals process, and we don't want that.